Okay, so yeah, just post the code whenever you're ready, and I'll take a look at it. I'm also gonna turn on night mode. It is a little dark. Okay, 19 GHMG. Did you lose in this game, by the way? Ugh, dude, I think the last review I did was on Esperanza. God damn it. Alright, here we go. You didn't play well, you could have played better, but you know you suck at push and dive comps? Okay. Your Genji's name is Virus, by the way. You did lose? Alright. Your Zen's name is Camel Toe? Fucking Gachi base, dude. I like the triple rollout. Good job. And where are you ranked? Like Masters? Diamond? Diamond 2? Okay. Okay. So, just a simple word of advice for when you get into higher ranks, when I saw you go in here, I immediately thought, bad play, but let's see where it goes. Okay, so right off the bat, their team's running a diva. Also, look how elongated the fucking... Got a Reaper as well. So they're very good in close quarters, Diva Reaper. But here, you're thinking play and cover. Yeah, it's not bad, but here's where it is bad. Look at how aggressive their diva just played. So, for starters, imagine if their diva, instead of pushing your Rein, pushed you. Because you're alone and you're off by yourself. You cannot be helped. In the higher ranks, a diva player will be able to recognize that, and you would have died 10 seconds ago. You ain't getting away with this in GM. So it's not like you can go over here and play here for a few seconds, but move after that. Because they've got Diva. In a GM game, Diva rushes you down with Defense Matrix and kills you. So you wouldn't last. Play with team. Specifically here, yeah, play with your team here. And then going even further back was a bad idea. It worked out, but it only worked out because you're in Diamond. So the issue with going further back here is that, well, the enemy team fucked up because their Diva, look, Diva got demeched. Reaper was not playing with Diva. So if their team had executed this push correctly, your team probably would have been forced to fall further back. And because you're over here on the flank, you're not dealing damage in their front line to push their team back. So, it gives the enemy team more confidence to push forward and your team less confident to push forward. Because your damage is missing. And now, you've got Ashe and Mercy back here. So, if you chose to go back here and make an aggressive flank play, well, you're just instantly dead. Because they've got an Ashe with a Mercy pocket. So, you're not gonna live that. So, you essentially made a dead-end play that wouldn't have done anything, but fed yourself to the enemy team. And it worked because it's Diamond 2, but it also worked because their D.Va fed. She didn't do the push correctly. It's not a bad idea to flank. I just think you flanked a bit too far and you didn't go back to your team fast enough. Now that's just from my playstyle. You know, if you specifically ask a Junkrat that tends to flank more, you might get a different answer. And yeah, Riptide, if you want to say something, then, you know, just, you know, say it in chat. And give me 1 sec here. Okay. Anyways, let's continue. Yo, up, Jacklz. He thought he played it well. Oh, he didn't. I mean, he didn't play it bad. He made a bad choice by playing off over here, because had their D.Va been more aware, he could have been punished instantly. That's why it was bad. But everything else, like, everything else that happened over here was fine. Like, it's good. But it could have been bad simply because of D.Va. Also, in GM, the Reapers I know would play more aggressive, and they probably would have pushed you, seeing your health is at 67. And also, I'm just going to turn this back off, because I don't think it needs to be on. So yeah, just be watchful for that. You know, it's funny. I was just about to comment on the trap you placed up there. I was going to say, typically, you don't want to put it there. Because... Sorry, something just fell downstairs. I was going to say, you typically don't want to place your trap where you did, because that's probably not where action is going to happen. Because the bot is right here on the corner and their team is back in here, you can tell that they're gonna try and repush this. And you want to have your trap where the fight is gonna take place in advance. But of course, decisions like that are it's one thing for me to sit here and tell you that while watching the replay. But when you're actually in the game, decisions like that can be changed depending on how you feel or depending on what priority you give. So you chose to place a trap there because you heard the tracer above you and thought, hey, she might flank this way. And I will say, placing your trap there is way better than placing it there when you don't hear anything over there. Like, when people go and place their trap on a flank that they literally don't see anyone using or they don't hear anyone using, that's a bad trap. That trap you placed there wasn't actually too bad because you heard the tracer and thought, hey, she might flank. So I might have had my trap already placed at the robot. But yeah, I mean, not a bad trap. But just make sure that whenever you're going to place a trap somewhere, make sure you place it in a spot where you think is going to have a lot of foot traffic. That's the important thing. even if they have a flanker, depends on the flanker. Like I mentioned, the decision that you make for where to place your trap can change, can vary depending on how it feels in the game. So like, I'm not in this game, I'm just spectating, so I'm watching. I don't get a sense for what that tracer's gonna do because I'm not in the game playing with them. So would I have placed my trap in that hallway? I don't know. Probably not. Probably would have just placed it on the payload or on the push bot. But you didn't make a bad choice by placing your trap there. But I wanted to put an asterisk on where you did place your trap. And that asterisk is just wherever you place your trap, make sure there's going to be activity there. So if you thought the tracer was going to flank there and thought there was going to be activity there, placing your trap there isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you just want to make sure that you're getting the full use out of your ability. And also, fucking webcam's dark again. Jesus. You're gonna go sleep? You need to be up tomorrow? Alright, Dan, I'll see you later, dude. Thanks for coming out.
Spawn activated.
So, not bad. Not a bad flank. I've gone through that flank occasionally, and when I do, I usually go in, shoot a few bullets, and then immediately leave. So I think that was a fine. Still here, just lurking, Resident Sleeper. So I think that was a fine flank. However, the trap you placed out in main, I think that was a little bit haphazardly thrown there. I think it feels like you kind of just threw it to get it out there. Like, feel like it was a bit poorly placed. If you wanted to place it there, you could have done it a little bit more carefully. Maybe I'm just being really real nitpicky. But I don't know if you wanted this train thing to hide the trap, maybe. But I think this was a bit of a poor spot to put it in. But nothing that's gonna keep you in diamond. Like it's just a little nitpick. Did Reaper just shadow step behind you? Not behind you, but he shadow stepped close. I assume you're going for a tire. Why not go for the Mercy? So, I think you messed up here. Because, two things I would have done. Is one, as soon as you get your tire here, you just kill Mercy. And boom, the fight's done. I don't know if you didn't see the Mercy, or if you just chose to go for .bap disc, but Mercy would have been better. You mean you thought he had immortality? Well, it doesn't matter, it's not out. But anyway, what you should have done was kill Mercy. But here's the second option you could have done.
A sip for the part.
You see what I see? More careful evaluation of that situation, you would have killed Baptiste and Mercy. Because Baptiste was on his way down. So you can use that knowledge to then say, okay, Baptiste is automatically going to be closer to me because he's coming down. I need to get Tyre closer to Mercy so I can spread this out into 2 kills rather than just 1. Because now, even though you killed Bap, Mercy's still there. So she can either go res the Bap, or, in this case, res the Tracer. And the last thing you want to do is allow a res to go through. Because reses in this game are so... They're fight turning. I think you jumped the wrong way there after the Reaper started shooting at you. You needed to just double mine out of there.
Let's give it a fair shake, mate. They're taking a swing. Let's push them back.
Let's group up.
Engaging thrusters.
Group up with me.
You saw her health. You could have killed her. You're coming up here. You see her there. Guess what you do? You immediately throw a mine right over here. Because you can see her health. She sees you coming. You know what she's going to do? She's going to try to leave that room as quickly as possible. So what do? You throw a concussion mine to the closest exit that you think she's going to go for. You don't even have to get it, like, you don't even have to get it in her face. All you got to do is get it closer because of how much health she has. So you can just toss it right over here. You toss it, she blinks into it, you detonate, she's dead. And even if you don't hit that, if you somehow miss and don't kill her, what you should still do is go over to the window and do a little scout and see if she's getting healed on time. Because some players, they will let their guard down when they return to their team to get heals from their supports. So what they'll do is they'll think that they're safe and they'll stand still and they'll wait for heals. Now, their Tracer didn't do that, but I'm just saying, you should always go check. Should you play in this room? You shouldn't really stick around here too long, but it's, like, not a bad place to be. I probably wouldn't have done anything different, to be honest. I think you waited way too long to jump the BAP, though. Because if I was in that window, I either would have tried to jump the BAP, which is a bit of an aggressive play, but that would have been for me to judge in the game. Or I would have went out the other window and stood behind Reinhardt and helped him fight back the D.Va. Because even though D.Va's going to eat all of your grenades, or most of them, what you're going to do is you're going to force her defense matrix out. And then when it finally goes down, you know, you're behind her, you're behind your Rein unloading into her. So it's about pressure. Even if you feel like you won't do anything by having D.Va eat your grenades, you actually are doing something. And what that is you're applying pressure. You're applying pressure on the D.Va to back up because now there's an additional team member that's behind their Reinhardt. Also, blurry cam. Come on. There we go. So, there's another player behind your Reinhardt that D.Va can then see, and it influences the D.Va's decision to either play more aggressive or play more defensive. Same thing with your Reinhardt. If Reinhardt is seeing that you're behind his shield, backing him up, your Reinhardt's going to get the confidence to continue pushing forward. Confidence as a Reinhardt is very important. It's like what makes Reinhardt Reinhardt. So if your Reinhardt sees that his team is behind him, shooting out from behind his shield, he's going to get all the confidence in the world to push up and establish a position that you need. And then on the flip side, when D.Va sees that your team is getting the confidence and everyone's pushing forward, D.Va's going to go, oh shit, my defense matrix is running out, I need to back up. So there's a lot more to it than just getting kills from the flank, you know? It's why I stress the playstyle that I have, which is playing with my team and not on the flank. Simply because of the pressure that I can create from the front line by just being there. So you can just shoot D.Va instead of avoid her? Yes. Even if she eats your grenades. Because what that does, it forces her to use defense matrix, and it gives your team confidence to still maintain the position that they're in. Because let's take a journey back to Overwatch 1 real quick. Hanamura. What was the problem with Hanamura? Teams on Hanamura, if you were attacking, a lot of people didn't have the confidence to push through the big doors. And that was because they would either be slowed down by a sim turret, they would be shot by a torb turret, or there would be an Ashe way on the high ground over there and a soldier way over there. There would be so many angles that they get shot from. And they wouldn't get the confidence to push through those big doors because of all that. So people would end up sitting at those doors for fucking 4 minutes and finally pushing through when everyone explodes their ults everywhere. So, and then when you would switch rounds and then you would defend, guess what would happen to your team? Your team would get instantly rolled. And you want to know why? It's because their Ashe would jump up top with a mercy pocket. Their Genji would come through the window. Winston would dive through the doorway. Lucio would speed boost in. Brig would be right behind him. Ana would be in the doorway shooting and healing their team. They came in through so many different angles. It gave their team the confidence to push through. And you know what your team did? They sat back and they said, oh shit, there's so many people coming through the fucking window, the top of the doorways. Ana's still, Winston just dove me, I'm discorded now. So, it's about confidence and applying pressure where it needs to be applied. And that, you could tell where the confidence was because of which team would be able to instantly break through the Hanamura first point doorway. So Just remember that. It happens on Nepal too. On Nepal, what is it? Village. When both teams push out top, if your tank goes out the door at the top, and your team is huddled in that doorway because they're afraid to push, because there's like a Pharah shooting into the doorway, or Diva's micro missiles are hitting, dealing 5 damage to you, but because you're just getting feedback that you're getting shot, you're not confident enough to push through that doorway. If your team stays in there, doesn't push through, well, guess what? Their team pushed through. And now your tank has 0 confidence because you guys didn't push through and their whole team's coming out. Whereas if your team floods out that doorway, the enemy team goes, oh shit, they all literally fucking came out of there. Now their team's dealing all, or your team's dealing all sorts of damage, and their team's kind of afraid because everyone fucking came out. And if you get if both teams, everyone comes out, well then it's just, it's just a brawl at that point. But if one team huddles in a certain area because they're afraid to push out, well then you've already lost. So confidence is big, and giving your team the confidence. So do you need to play more defensive? I think you should play with your Rhine a bit more, because it will give your Rhine the confidence that he needs to establish the position that he needs to make. Plus, if you're on the flank, not to mention you're running Brig Moira. So if you're on the flank, you're not going to get any heals. You might get an armor pack from Brig, but that's only if you're an LOS. And up here where you were, that's not an LOS of where the Brig was playing. And because you're not down, like, you have Genji. What's Genji going to do to D.Va? Genji's not going to do any damage to D.Va. So you need to be behind your Rhine helping him do damage to D.Va to dissuade her from pushing into your team. Because right now, your team's dying because that D.Va is getting all the space in the world. It's not always about how you perform individually. It's about how your plays affect the game as a whole. It doesn't matter. I've always said this. It doesn't matter if you die. It doesn't matter if you're going 2-10. If your team is winning, that's all that matters. So, you might be getting constantly killed over and over again, but if their team is putting that much effort into killing you and you're still winning, well then just go with it. Their team is already making the mistakes because you're winning. And that's part of the danger about being on the flank where you are. Because one, if this was a GM game, that Tracer would not keep the distance that she's keeping from you. And two, you're all alone, so you're easy pickings for D.Va. And three, in a GM game, D.Va would have already killed you over here.
Your team has lost the lead.
They have the lead! Can't keep a bad lad down!
Just a quick little note. It looks like you're a bit slow to react. That Tracer up there on the high ground, she's up there for a really long time, and you're turning really slowly. Need to be a bit faster with that. You have a hard time balancing team comps. You look at their comp and you want to flank, but you notice they're too slippery for you. But you look at our comp and you see more brawl, so you don't know if you mortar or frag. If you look at your comp and you see more brawl, then you play with your team. Doesn't matter what they're running. If your team's running brawl, play with your team. Nice job waiting out the immortality field. Did you throw your trap over there because you thought Tracer was going to recall? So that trap was a bit too late. So two things. If you threw your trap there because you thought Tracer was going to recall at that exact spot, trap was way too late. The trigger time, it still had the trigger time, Tracer would have gotten away. Now, if you threw it over there because you thought Tracer was going to recall, not necessarily on that spot, but in the general vicinity, and then step in your trap, still too late. Because Tracer, if she recalled, she's not going to be contesting this bot here because she's going to die. So what she's going to do, she's going to blink backwards into your spawn for safety. So that trap wouldn't have done anything. It was placed a bit too late.
Activating self-destruct sequence. Booting up.
So you should have already jumped up there, created chaos, and fell back down. Okay. Couple misplays here. The moment you hear this soldier, you know what he's going to do. He's going to come over here, peek the edge, try to pick off flankers. You have 2 concussion mines. Right now, immediately, place one on the ground, you jump up there, you catch that soldier off guard. Because by the time you get up there, he's gonna be full of you, fucking spreading his titties and his ball sack in the wind, and he's gonna be the freest kill. And you get him with a 1-2. I'm actually surprised he left. GM game, he would have stayed there. You might have died. Maybe. Nice. You should be shooting D.Va's mech as she comes out of it, so you can damage her. You don't want to wait till she's out, you want to be shooting her as she's coming out.
Don't tell anyone.
You don't want to be sitting right here, just doing nothing. You heard Reaper right up here. You want to peek out, do some damage to that Reaper, maybe force his Wraith out or force him to back up. Then you lead this area. Because they're still on D.Va, they still have Reaper. If that GM game, you're dead. You're already dead in a GM game. So this is one reason. Yeah, what up, Gage? This is one reason why you don't want to. This is why I don't flank. Because what you've done here, you've sat here for what, 10, 15 seconds? And all this shit, all this activity is happening outside, and what are you doing? Absolutely nothing. You never want to do nothing in this game. And you're doing too much nothing for too long. You notice it looks like he isn't focused on the game sometimes. I've noticed that it definitely does look like you're a little unsure about what to do sometimes.
Let's group up. Group up with me.
Group up here.
Forward spawn.
Let's group up.
Robots with us now. Push ahead.
When you jumped up here, in my head I was like, good, now deploy tire. And you did. That was great. D.Va coming around killing you happens. At least you got somebody with that.
This situation calls
60 seconds remaining.
It's a complete waste. Interesting. Why do you think it was a waste?
They've taken the robot. How irksome.
blasting up.
Get eyes ready.
Houston, we have the robot.
Stay on me.
I think it was a waste because when he landed, he's loud as fuck. I don't think that makes it a waste. I think that the only thing that did was make it risky. Bad spot to tire. The position he was in, I think it was a necessary. I think that was literally the perfect way to play that scenario. I didn't think D.Va was going to come back and eat your ass. She did. It's unfortunate. However, it doesn't matter. Because you killed the Baptiste, your team won the fight. I think you played that perfectly. Now, do you want to always do tires like that? No, but in that specific situation, I think that was probably the best way you could have handled that. If he lived and came out after tire and killed another, you think it'd be a positive? Well, I think where you chose to drive your tire, I think that was a bit of a misplay. I think in the position you were, you probably could have gone for a double kill rather than just singular on the Baptiste. However, I still think it was worth. You thought you would live. Honestly, I did too. I didn't think D.Va would chase you like she did. But you know, D.Va's a bitch anyway, so.
My ultimate's ready.
Okay, here's what you want to do. Start shooting.
Forward spawn activated.
You hear all sorts of footsteps. You don't know who's in there. I mean, you know soldiers there. But you don't know the state of this room right now. You don't know if anyone is going to come up here. You need to be shooting this doorway already. And you wait until you go into the doorway and see, and there's a Mei already in your face. You need to be shooting it now.
Your team is close.
Because now, imagine if you pre-fired that doorway going in there. You could have actually killed the Mei. And your trap, by the way, you can place that on top of Mei's eyes block and trap her when she comes out. It's an immediate trap when she comes out of her ice block.
Just a few steps away from them. Keep pushing.
Your team is close. 10 seconds remaining.
You didn't pre-fire to be sneaky. You didn't need to be sneaky in that situation, though. I like how Riptide said the same thing. You didn't need to play... I don't know, I don't think you needed to move up like that at the end there when you did. You still had a lot of your teammates alive, although your diva was out of mech. So, interesting situation here. I think what you should have done here was go over to the left side here on these staircases. Because you can tell that more people are over here on this right side. Not by the X-ray, but by their shooting. So you come over here to get a better angle on those guys, and you shoot at them. Because here, you can't really do anything but shoot the Mei. And the Mei's got a wall, an ice block, and the bot to stand in the way of that. So... I don't think you needed to push to the bot to save overtime here. Because... there are certain times where you need to dive into the payload to save overtime, and there are other times where you need to prioritize your life. Now, your team went down pretty quickly. You still have 2 people up there by the bot. Your diva's probably fucked. But still, in this instance, you want to be preserving your life. Don't think walking towards the bot here is what you needed to do. Because if you focus fire on those guys in the back, the ones that are suppressing your team right now, they can touch the bot. And more importantly, if you're over here shooting at them, they'll probably see you and they'll probably shoot back at you rather than your team. That is probably going to be behind the bot. So now you're suppressing them and you're taking their fire. So these guys on the bot live, your diva hopefully gets mech back, and you continue the overtime fight. At a spot like that, you're pinching them, you want to make it hell for them to navigate. Exactly, you want to create chaos in that small corridor. Back to the moment where he tired and Diva got him, let me write out why I entirely think it was a waste. When you tire, you're incredibly vulnerable, but it's almost always a trade when people try to kill you. Maximize your presence, you need to sneak up on someone, combo them, and then mine out of the Diva vicinity immediately, then tire. Chase down the second target, or even use the chaos to draw Diva and demech her for your life. I think Riptide. I think the difference here. I think it comes down to playstyle, because the way Shadow acted in that moment was exactly what I would have done, and they won the fight because of it. He killed Baptiste, so they didn't have as much heals, and they won the fight. I didn't think Diva would play aggressive and go kill him, which is why I thought it was a good play. And had that Diva come in and killed me as well, I would have been a bit disappointed, but I would have seen that I won the fight, and I would have continued thinking that was the right thing to do. So I think our opinions are just gonna vary because of our playstyle. Um, you have a hard time thinking about that mid game. That's why you're so unsure. You're thinking about a lot, but unsure what's the right play. I think in that case, Shadow, I think you might actually be thinking too hard. You have to be a playmaker to climb in Diamond Masters. Well, I disagree. Or I think we need to definitively determine how we're going to define the word playmaker. Because as I was talking earlier about the whole pressure and confidence thing, even if you got 2 kills and 10 deaths, if you are providing confidence and pressure, providing confidence to your team and pressure to the enemy team, then what you're doing is right. It doesn't matter how many kills or deaths you have. If your team is winning, then whatever the pressure that you're applying, it's working. It doesn't matter if you're being singled out by an Ashe or Tracer. If you are there and you're winning fights because you were there, like you can like take a team fight for example and then remove yourself from it and then say, would we have lost if I wasn't there? And then you can start thinking and it's like, well, if I wasn't there, wouldn't have had a damage to go out and discourage Sigma from pushing forward. Or if I wasn't there, Reinhardt wouldn't have seen that I was backing him up with all this damage, and maybe he would have played a bit more passive. Maybe he wouldn't have played as aggressive to go for that 4-man Earthshatter that he got. See what I'm saying? Just slightly increasing the confidence of your team members can make all the difference. Because that Reinhardt, seeing you behind him, might have felt more confident, played slightly more aggressive, gone for an aggressive Earthshatter, shattered 4, and you kill everyone. Whereas if you weren't there, he would have said, I don't really have the team behind me to back up an Earthshatter. I'm not going to go for it. And then you lose the fight. So, applying pressure to the enemy team and providing confidence to your team is very important. And it doesn't matter if you're dying constantly. What matters is the value that you're getting out of the lives that you're having in the team fight. So, people shit talk me, they shit talk other players. Dude, this guy's fucking going 2-10 on our team. This guy's fucking dog shit. It's like, well, maybe. But also, you need to look at if they're actually providing value. Value is not always in the kills that you get. It's in the damage that you do. It's in the pressure that you provide simply by existing. It's the same thing with Widowmaker and Hanzo. Widowmaker has long-ass sightlines. She's down on the other end of fucking Junkertown .1. She's already providing so much value simply by existing back there. So she doesn't necessarily need to get the kill. All she needs to do is intimidate and prevent people from playing in a certain area. And even if she shoots you and doesn't get the kill, well, guess what? You're at half health now. You're at 50 health now. Someone else can finish you. So, I return. What's this, VOD review? Welcome back, Alice. Yeah, we're actually just finishing up the VOD review. And I'm going to end stream here in a couple minutes. Playmaker as in you set up a push for your team by getting a pick. That's what I mean. Okay, well then, I disagree with that some. It's not always about getting a pick. It's not always about getting a kill. It's about enabling you or your teammates to set up that kill, to set up a position to where your team is going to have the advantage to then push the objective. It's about the message. My sad gameplay. Actually, your gameplay wasn't all that bad. Just a couple mistakes. For instance, I do think you need to flank less, play a little bit more in the front line, but also be smart about it, because a lot of lower ranked Junkrats, when they do play frontline, they won't know how to play against a Hanzo or a Widow, and they'll just, or a Torb for that matter, they'll just randomly die because, like, oh, I was playing frontline, I was doing exactly what you said, and like I still, like, now I'm getting randomly headshot by Hanzo, and it's like, you still have to be careful with it. The thing about Hanzo is, it doesn't matter who the Hanzo player is, it doesn't matter what character you're playing on your team. If you play in a Hanzo sightline for long enough, you will get randomly headshot by that Hanzo player. They're not good, they're not skilled, they just got lucky. And that will happen. Same thing will happen with Torbs. Torbjorns will do it too. Hell, Symmetra does it. Doesn't matter who those players are. It doesn't matter if it's fucking Raksu on Hanzo. Raksu's a very good player, but everyone has moments of just randomly spamming down sightlines and getting kills. It's gonna happen. So you need to make sure, from your perspective, that it doesn't happen to you. So you peek those sightlines for very small amounts of times, for a very small amount of time, and then you go hide again. If you're peeking in and out of a corner with a certain interval, make sure you change that interval, because a GM Hanzo is gonna be able to identify the interval that you're peeking at, and he's gonna pre-fire a headshot arrow at you. So it might be luck, it might be half skill, but you walked into it because you made the interval that you're peeking at predictable. So you need to switch that up too. So in my opinion, flank a bit less, play with your team more, and be a little better at prioritizing who to riptire. Earlier in the game, you went for that Baptiste and ignored the Mercy. You should have just instantly killed the Mercy, and if you wanted to go for a double kill, you should have been able to identify that you could have killed Baptiste and Mercy with that riptire. So be a bit more mindful of that. Also, there was a moment where it looked like it looks like your game awareness is still a little bit lacking. So try and be more aware of what's happening around you. Now, since you are Diamond 2, Diamond players do have less awareness than Masters and GM players, so, awareness comes with gameplay experience. When your team is full of pansies, you can't enable them, that's what you mean. So you do their job, kill the enemy. Yeah, but it's not your job to do things. It's not your job to carry your teammates, basically. As now, you can identify, like, maybe who's struggling in a game, and is there anything you can do extra to help them, do better? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But you don't need to go into a game saying, okay, I gotta carry my team. I need to make these plays happen. You just need to think about the game as a whole rather than what you do individually. So think about how, like, if you notice your tank players continuously getting fucked, try and identify how you can help your tank. Does that mean go off on the flank and get a kill? Maybe. But could it also just mean that they need more support behind them? Yeah. But that varies widely from game to game. So when you gain rank, you'll be able to gain that knowledge of what to do in those situations. You go into a game, your tank doesn't turn on their healers, your DPS just shoots their tanks, their healers live forever. Only I'm left to anything. Real example. Had to kill both healers in order for us to win. I mean, there will be times where, because that's the thing, a lot of people, they'll get into a game and it'll be like heavily one-sided, and then and then someone in the game will be like, "GG's, dude, matchmaking." Like earlier today, we had some guy in our game say, "Matchmaking thought this was a balanced game, by the way," and it's like, well, it is. The thing that's unbalanced is the playstyles everyone has in the game. So, for instance, if you get someone in your game that has the playstyle of, like, if they're Genji and they always target the healers, um, and you have a playstyle of bashing the tanks, well then your team is already doing two separate things. But now let's say the DPS you get on your team have only the playstyle of bashing the tanks. Well, that tank's just going to get bashed and repeatedly healed because no one's going after the healers. So there will be games that feel one-sided simply because everyone on your team has the same idea to do the exact same thing. And that is what's not good. That is what leads to your team standing in one spot, not doing anything. When you have a variety of playstyles on your team in one game, that tends to alleviate that. So on the flip side, you're on the other team, you're absolutely rolling the other team. Like, you're on the high ground over here, Ashe is on the high ground with a Mercy Pocket over there, your Winston's diving, your Ana's in the back healing, and your Zen's getting some good discords. Meanwhile, you haven't even been shot at. It's like, well, what's the issue there? Well, the issue there for the other team is that everyone is either, one, they're either not grouped up, two, they're all trying to shoot the Winston. Nobody's looking at the Ashe on the high ground that's being pocketed by the Mercy, so Ashe is getting thousands of kills. And, and you're standing there as Junkrat, just firing artillery support, doing damage, getting a kill here and there. So there are so many things that can influence how the game plays out. And people in the lower ranks don't understand this. It's not an issue with matchmaking. It's an issue with the players and the characters they choose to play, for one, but the playstyles they have as well. Because if let's say you have a Widowmaker on your team and you have a Widowmaker on the other team. Let's say your Widowmaker, it shouldn't be like this, by the way, but let's just say your Widowmaker's playstyle is to just constantly focus on the supports, and maybe there's a Bastion on the other team as well. So Widowmaker is constantly focusing the Bastion and the two supports. Whereas the enemy team has a Widowmaker constantly focusing the Widowmaker. So now your Widow's getting picked off by the Widowmaker because she's never paying attention for their Widowmaker. And now the rest of your team is like, dude, Widow, what are you doing? You gotta shoot this guy. And their Widow, and the Widow on the enemy team is just having the freest game in the world. It's because their Widow has the instinct to first take out the enemy Widow and then deal with the rest of the team. Whereas your Widowmaker has the idea to shoot at the supports first and not the enemy Widowmaker. So target priority really matters. And that comes in with playstyle and the character you play. So a lot goes into it. Now I'm split, you're both obviously good. Well, it depends on your playstyle as well, how you want to fit this advice in. Because Riptide's not wrong. But it's not what Riptide is saying is not what I would do because of my playstyle. How would you judge this game's teammates? Your Zen told you to switch because of the diva. Well, Zen's probably just salty that you're playing Junkrat. But your Zen should, if Zen thinks diva is a problem, Zen needs to be constantly discording the diva. That's number one. If Zen is already not doing that, like if you look at diva and she isn't discorded, then your Zen is doing something wrong. If Zen is bitching about diva and you look at diva and diva's not discorded, instant red flag. You need to fix that immediately. Tell the Zen to start perma-discording the fucking diva. Most knowledgeable Junkrat main? Thanks. First off, moron H-key advertiser. Yeah. Your Ryan also went diva as well. In my opinion, you don't like you can play Ryan against diva, but you really don't want to. I would have swapped Zarya. Because then diva would have been absolutely zero issue. Zarya, Zen against the diva, yeah, that guy's going to switch off diva real quick. And if he doesn't, like, what is it, Thanksgiving? You guys got a fucking free meal there. Looking at your gameplay, you know it's only one game, but where does your gameplay style stand? Well, like both me and Riptide said, it looked like you were a bit confused as to what to do in the game. And to me, it looks like when you flank, it looks like you don't really commit to the flank. So my advice would be start playing in the front line a bit more. Play with your tank. But overall, not too bad. Just a couple things here and there. But figure out. Honestly, in my opinion, just stop flanking as much. I think it might help you. Any trap tips? Yeah, keep your trap in the fight. Your traps weren't actually too bad. But as always, just wherever the fight is going to take place, wherever there's going to be a lot of foot traffic, put your trap there. But yeah, I think that about does it.